Welcome back to Let's Talk God, Jesus, and Faith today. I am the host, Crystal Ruiz, and I'm here with Dr. Tom Slayton.
Hey, everybody.
And I bet you're wondering why we have fishing poles.
What are we going to do today?
We are going to talk about fishing.
Fishing's good.
I think so. I think it's one of my favorite things to do. One of my best childhood memories is fishing.
Well, it's one of mine too because we had to eat on Fridays.
Yeah, we didn't have that. I mean, if we did, it was kept a secret.
Yeah.
But I love to fish with my dad. It was something that we got to do, that we just hung out, and you cast that line out there, and you do it at the right time of day, at the right location, at the right spot, and you get a fish.
You know, it's so different how people remember things. You remember all of those wonderful things. All we knew is if water was there, fish were there. But I tell you what I did learn. Like you see these wonderful rods and reels that we have.
Mm-hmm.
We always took them and we threw way out in the middle. That's not where the fish were.
No, they're on the shore.
They're right on the shore.
Yep.
But then you learn that after a while.
Yeah.
So rather than carrying all of this stuff, I used to carry what I called a drop line.
Oh.
It was just a
short pole.
No, it wasn't even a pole. It was a stick, and you had the line wrapped around it and the bobber, and you just threw it right out there and wait, and boom, pull him in.
Oh, nice.
So I'd go get 8, 10 fish and come on home.
Nice.
We weren't trying to do sporting or anything. And then flies, you can put flies on here, and it's kind of like the gospel. You got the object of the gospel is Jesus said he would make them fishers of men. Mm-hmm. And instead, they wanted to be fishers of fish. Uh-huh. See, because
fish brought in money, right?
We got all of these things that we do. We got lures. We got special weights, special shape weights. Like, I noticed on this when I was fixing it for you, this is a weight for a sandy bottom. Mm-hmm. Now, you wouldn't use this necessarily in a muddy bottom. So yet a muddy bottom, it's really, really loose, and they have a weight that comes to a point. So you put that in there, etc. Well, that's the way it is with the gospel. People got all of these ways, supposedly, and they're so intent on what to use, they forget to fish. Mm. See, so what we did, coming from the families that we came from, when Mom said, can you boys go to the lake? That means it was going to be scarce, so we didn't come up with something. Well, we knew just where everything was. We knew that the bass were over here, the perch were over here, and the bluegill were over here. And the minnows we didn't mess with unless you're going to go out and try to get something off a boat. And that's the way it is today. People don't know how to fish for men anymore, how to talk to somebody, how to lead somebody to Christ. Because Christ said he'd make us fishers of men. Well, all you have to do is think, when you're going to lead somebody to the Lord, how would I want to be approached? I don't know this person. We're standing here in front of Scouring Cleanser, and we're each trying to pick out, and we're having little conversations about Scouring Cleanser and, which one is best, etc. And the way you'd fish for men on that, he said, where do you go to church? Mm-hmm. And the answer is going to be, I go here, 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 or here. Or the classical answer is, huh?
Yeah. I've received that once or twice.
You received, huh?
I have received, huh, once or twice.
Yeah, where do you go to church? Oh, you don't go to church. Why don't you come to my church? Mm. So now you've opened the door that they're either going to give you the okay to talk to them, or they're going to shut you down right away. Mm-hmm. See, so it's kind of like fishing. You go out and you go out there, you're looking to catch some nice yellow perch, and you throw out a big old ball of stink bait. You ain't gonna catch no yellow perch.
You're not?
No. If you're fortunate in the right place, you might get a catfish, but you don't get no yellow perch. So it's kind of like, you have to know how to talk to people. And, when I came up, they used to use the term lead people to the Lord. my pastor was so good at telling the young people, and he would come and just sit on the side of a chair, on the back of a chair, out with all the young people. And he said, how many of you guys are going to heaven?
Oh.
And every hand went up. He'd say, why? Every hand went down.
They're like, let me catch
We
that.
didn't know why. Well, that's the way you fish for men. Where you gonna go when you die?
So I've got to stop you and I got to ask you a question because when we read the Bible, sometimes it seems like it's just a bunch of stories, right?
Uh-huh.
And when Jesus said, "I'm going to make you fishers of men,"
Hmm.
and I've said this before, when you read the Bible at one point in your life, it means one thing, but you read it later on, it might mean something totally different. So I'm looking at this going, okay, he told this to his disciples, but he's actually talking to us too,
Well,
right?
what are we?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We're disciples.
We're disciples of
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're
That's
not
what
apostles. We're disciples.
really what we
Yeah,
are.
right.
Is
And that just means followers of Christ. That's all disciple means. It's a follower of Christ. See, people make a disciple as something with a, big quotations behind it. No, it's just, yeah, I believe in Jesus. I believe he is God, etc. And what happens? This is a little difficult to explain. I try to explain it this way. If you drew a circle and inside the circle was you,
Mhm.
and before you knew Christ, it would be you and the inside of that circle. Now, once you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, there's a circle that goes around you that increases your understanding of God.
Mhm.
Because the average person has no understanding of God. God to most people is in the woo-woo category. Woo, 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 woo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have no idea who he is. But when you start
Some
opening
are
up,
afraid of him,
a lot of it, and they need to be.
and they well, they're scared to death
Yeah, right,
know God because they're
right.
afraid they don't measure up or they don't,
Yeah,
you know.
and that's so true. That's where good teaching and preaching comes from because uh, people don't understand how God could love them as mean as they are.
Oh yeah,
You know,
and I'm only speaking for myself maybe, but I did some stupid things when I was young. I did some stupid things probably yesterday, and yet he still loves me. And it just confounds my mind and stuns me. I'll find myself driving down the road and I'm talking to God the whole way, saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because that's all I can say is thank you, because you know what?
you didn't
Nobody
kill me.
else. Yeah. I mean, come on, even just my thoughts.
Yeah.
I get on that road, and I've told you before, I really fight that urge to just tell these drivers off, get out and slap some of them silly. And I shouldn't be like that if I'm a
Did
Christian.
I tell you my story
About
about?
getting out of the car? Yes. And that's exactly how I feel.
I mean, and I'm the pastor. Oh my goodness.
And that's it. But that feeling doesn't go away.
No, not right away. Yeah, not right away.
And even, well, not right away. You're how far along are you? You've been pastoring. You've been a Christian for how many years?
Well, I've been a Christian. Let's see, 74 years.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
You broke it. He broke it.
He forgot to check it.
Okay, check it again. Check it,
All
check
right.
it.
So you said you've been a pastor for how many years?
No, I've
I've
been,
been a Christian.
been a Christian for 74 years. I've been a pastor since I was 31, and I'm 81 now.
Wow.
So that's what.
That's a long time. You've seen a lot of different things, but yet you still have to check yourself when you're driving or other places, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. You have to always remember that we're called to be Christ-like. And what Christ did that most people miss, they want to think of all of the glorious things and glamorous things. He was a servant. And that's what we have to do, be willing to serve people.
That's what amazes me. You know that I'm political figure outside of what we're
Hmm.
doing here.
Sure.
And I was always taught, I was raised and taught that elected officials work for the people. We are the servant of the people. Now, we can't make everybody 100% happy, but we have to do to the best of our ability to serve. And I will never forget when I was first elected, they had this big event out at the Ramona Bowl, and it was a chamber mixer, and they had an ice cream social, and it was kind of the weather was okay. It was a little warm, but it was okay. They had big things of ice cream there, and somebody, might have been Agnes, that needed some help with some ice cream. And absolutely lovely lady, a little bit older, not as old as she is now, but she was a little bit older, struggling with that ice cream scoop. So I said, let me help you with that. And I scooped her out some ice cream. And then somebody else came up and I scooped them some ice cream. Before you know it, I'm scooping everybody ice cream. And somebody comes up to me, no, you don't have to do that. No, you don't have to do that. And I was like, confounded as to why they would say that. I said, no, I got it. I spent
Yeah, I don't
25
mind
years in
doing
the
it. Yeah.
restaurant industry. I'm good.
Right.
But it naturally comes to me that my position is to serve. And I've done that throughout all the many years that I've been an elected official now, which it really isn't that many. It is a lot, but when
Hmm.
you look at Congress and all of that, it's not that many at all.
No.
But I've been elected since 2012, and the whole time I'm always trying to do
Well,
service.
you're reaching out to help. That's what service is.
Well, and that's what he wants us to
It's
do. And so it's grounded in us when we become, and maybe I'm wrong, but when we become followers of Christ, that it's grounded in us to do that naturally, right?
yeah, to be willing to serve. No, it's not necessarily natural because you still have to fight your own self. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if a person has been mean all their lives, when they accept Christ as Lord and Savior, they're going to, in the beginning, have a propensity to be mean
Oh, yeah.
until they start realizing I'm not supposed to act like this.
Kind of like driving.
And God has given me the capacity not to act like this. You know, when I really came back to the Lord, because I was in and out, in and out, driving is a perfect example. I only had two modes of driving. It was off and on. You know, now I would let off the gas a little bit for the turns until I got to the apex. Then I'd punch it
Then you
again,
hit it
so I
again.
wouldn't go sliding around. But no, I had to learn how to be Christ-like. So I think one of the greatest statements that ever came out during my lifetime is WWJD. What would Jesus do?
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And
Remember, everything had that.
yeah, they said that for a while and it became alive and then it disappeared. But still, I ask myself, even now, after all of these years, what would Jesus do? You know, one thing you find out about Jesus, if you open the Gospels, you look at Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and then at the end of the book of Revelation, it'll have just a half a blurb. Behold, I come quickly. You don't see Jesus saying a whole lot.
Hmm.
What a hint.
Yeah.
Got to say a whole lot,
Hmm.
you know.
What he said was powerful, though.
Oh, yeah,
It's
because
so powerful, it goes generation to generation. It's like
Mhm.
we were just
and he knew
saying.
how to respond to people,
Right.
not react to people, but how to
Oh,
respond.
isn't that interesting that you
Yeah.
bring that up? Because that's what we do when we
We
drive.
react.
We react.
Yeah.
We react because some fool does something stupid in
Well,
front of
you
us,
know,
and we're like, "Oh,
one of the hardest things for me was this driving business because I get in the fast lane and I go.
Mhm.
And if you're going the speed limit in the fast lane, you're
You're
going
going
too
slow."
slow.
Or if you're, my husband just gets so mad at me because I'll get mad at somebody driving 40 miles an hour on the freeway. That's illegal. It's too low.
No,
You
it's
can't.
not.
Well,
Yeah, you're allowed to drive 35 on the freeway.
are you really?
Yes, 35.
35
But
in a 70, I mean,
but
70
you
mile an hour zone.
but you got to be in
The
the
slow
right
lane,
lane.
the right lane.
Yes.
But usually, if you're going 35, you better have your hazard lights on because they're going to run
Yeah,
you over.
they're gonna run you. You know,
You're
when
going to be
that guy,
running your
when you
butt
look
off.
in there and all you see is this grill.
Yeah.
and you hear bop.
Yeah, that's
You're
exactly
gonna get
it.
the idea. Get on the shoulder. Let
Get
that
off
truck
that,
by.
get off that road. Trust me, when you're driving.
Uh,
But maybe you're right. But I tell you what, this
yeah,
person not too long ago was going 40 miles an hour, and I was so
yeah.
frustrated because I couldn't get around because we have a little bit bigger vehicle. It takes a
I
little longer to get it started.
I'll tell you a funny story about me. Many people don't know this, but back in the 70s, I was a LA County sheriff, and I was on my way to work one day, and for some reason now, picture this. Everybody today would know what a Mini is.
They're small vehicles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, an Austin Mini Cooper was 1/4 of the size of the Mini, or 3/4 of the size of today's Mini. So it was little.
Yeah.
It was called an
How the heck
Austin.
did you fit in that?
I just did.
Like, I don't know how. You're 6'8".
I worked at it. But
What?
anyway, it is so funny. I was on my way to work and I was coming down the freeway. And at that time, the speed limit was 65. And I'm going a lot more than I should. And I get up behind this guy and he's doing 50 in the fast lane.
Now, hang on. How old would you have been?
Let's see, how old was I then? I would have been in my 20s.
Okay, so this was before you became a pastor. Okay, I
Oh,
want
yeah,
to,
yeah, way before.
I
became
want
a
to, I want to
pastor.
get that. But
Yeah, yeah.
you were a Christian.
Yeah, I was a Christian, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
go on.
I'm sure if I had died, I would have went to heaven. That's about it, though. But I wasn't setting a good example. Anyway, I'm going down the road, and I get to this guy, and I put the high beams on. Boop, 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 boop. Hey, I'm coming
Oh
up
yeah,
on you. Boop, 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 boop.
turn
And
the
he
high beams on off
and he does the typical thing. He looks in the rearview mirror,
and
like,
continues on.
duh, I'm stupid. I don't know. Oh, why are you flashing the lights at me? I looked at. I'm going 50 miles an hour.
You're like in the
Okay,
wrong lane.
So when I get a chance, I go around him into the lane next to him and pull back in front of him, and I go on about my business. Well, I forgot all about him. I'm going down the road. So I get up to Pacific Coast Highway. I get off of Pacific Coast Highway. I turn down I forget the street I get off. It's 215th Street or something. And I'm going down, and I'm coming up on Western Avenue, and I look. This guy is in my rearview mirror.
Okay, the same guy.
Yeah, the same guy. I'm going, what's this about? So I pull up to Western Avenue and I stop. He gets out of the car and he beads in on me. And he slams the door on his car and he's walking, very animated. And I said, oh boy, here it comes. He reaches down in that little Austin Mini Cooper, which was only about that tall. He jerks the door open, grabs me by the collar, snatches me out of the car and goes, oh, puts me back in the car.
And you're laughing.
Well, what was so funny is when he pulled out, all he could see was this 9mm in my
Oh, right
armpit.
there.
Because I'm on the way to the apartment. I got my sheriff's uniform on and everything, and a jacket on top of it.
And he didn't even recognize the jacket until he pulls you out and sees the gun.
I didn't have to say a thing, but that was part of growth.
Yeah.
Because at one time, just when he was coming, before he got to me, I would have been out of the car and on him like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you would have terrified him then too, with
Well,
your
yeah,
size.
yeah. Well, that's the thing, But you see, I'll tell you something about size. When you're my size, you don't realize you're big.
Yeah.
You really don't. Like I look at my wife. I don't consider myself big compared to Gail, but I was standing in front of one of them plate glass windows at the mall.
Uh-huh.
Look at that difference in size.
Yeah.
I am huge compared to other people. And I don't realize it.
I never realized how the size difference. My brother's about the same height as you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so that was just normal to me.
Yeah.
He was average
Mm-hmm.
until I get around other men. And then I see them next to him and I'm going, oh, dang, he is big. You're right. It doesn't recognize it. But you know what?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what happens when we're Christians. We don't recognize our size as a Christian.
As a Christian, as
And
a person of God,
right, and the
as a
ability,
child of God.
right, and the ability and what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to be emulating and what we're supposed to be showing the world, the light, right?
Right, right.
The light is Jesus within us, and it's coming out, and you can't hide it.
No,
There's no
no,
hiding the
no.
light. You walk into a room of people
hmm
who are
And they will
truly,
know.
they do.
They
And
they
it's
know.
interesting because I'm in the field I'm in. Why, right? I have walked into a room where there's true evil in that room, and I'm all the do 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 do, and I'm totally oblivious until all of a sudden I'm not.
hmm
And you see these people just scurry.
Oh
Now
yeah,
the
yeah.
good people will, connect to you, but the truly evil people will know within a second or two.
Well,
Thanks anyway, and
some people
it's just weird.
they just don't know how to act. I recall an incident back. I was in Malibu, and my partner, who I called him a mini Depp.
A
Now,
mini depth.
yeah, now he was 5'7",
Okay.
and I think 5'6" is the minimum you can be. So he's 5'7", and we pulled over a guy, and he's given my partner a fit. The guy's yelling out the window, and when it comes to a cop, I don't want to put it this way because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Being yelled at and receiving yelling from somebody is not a crime,
Mm.
you know. So my partner's getting yelled at and yelled at and yelled at. I'm waiting for him in the car, and he's still out there, and he's getting yelled at. I see he's not getting a word in edgeside when he edgewise, and I see when he turns around, he has that frustrated look on his face. He comes back to the car. He says, "Tom, I'm going to need some help." I says, "What do you mean?" He says, "I can't get no cooperation out of this guy." I told him, I says, "Ted, you're doing it all wrong." "What do you mean? Everything they've taught us." I said, "Let me show you how to do it." I got out the car, walked up to the car. I reached into the car. I grabbed the guy by the throat. I pulled him out through the window. I licked him. I went, put him back in the car. I said, "Okay, go deal with him now." Had no trouble.
No trouble at all then, huh?
No trouble. I said, "You actually licked him?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what did you do after?" I said, "I spit."
Yeah.
But all of these techniques that I'm talking about, okay, that's funny, etc. It was wrong. It shouldn't have been done. God gives us techniques to win other people. The most important thing on this earth is people, not stuff.
Right. Right. And that,
Jesus laid down his life
for people, not the
not stuff.
thing. And that's what my husband and I were just talking about that on the way over here. Actually on the way back from his work. And we were talking about how people are so tied to stuff. You can't be buried with your stuff. How are you going to take that to heaven?
Well, if your stuff is that good, they're going to dig it up anyway.
Right. You don't need
know,
it.
Yeah.
You don't need
can't
it.
use it. Yeah.
And you aren't there
Right.
anyway.
Right.
So you might as well let it go.
Well, it's interesting you say they're not there. The average person doesn't know that.
all they have to do is go to a funeral.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Tom, have you, well, I know you've been to
know
many.
I have. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
funerals,
I've been to a few, not
but-
not many, but I've been to a
but
few.
I've been to way too many.
Mhm.
And I tell you what, when you see that there's no soul in that body, you can tell. Like
Yeah.
you know someone so well, you've lived with them all your life, and you see your mom or your dad
Well,
laying there.
it's not.
Their soul's not there anymore.
That's one way, but I tell you what, the first call I had on the sheriff's department when I got call it getting out of jail. That's, when you first join the sheriff's department, they send you to the LA County Jail so you can learn that people in jail are not bad people.
Mm-hmm.
They're just people that are there for doing something that they should not have done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my first call outside of jail was a call to a bar. And in that bar, the guy was sitting there drinking a drink. He took a drink and he fell on the floor and he was dead.
Oh my God.
That was my first call. So I had to deal with this dead body. And you're looking at him and he's looking at you through one eye. But his pupil, rather than being like this, is like this. And something's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, how long's it been there? Well, it's been a couple of hours now.
Couple hours?
Yeah. I says, how come you waited a couple of hours? Well, we thought maybe he would come too. No,
Oh.
he's dead, champ, you know. Well, then you find out there's stiffness that goes with them, etc.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a way you have to. Well, I say all that to say this. If you start looking at real life and you start equating it to supernatural spiritual life, there's not a whole lot of difference.
Mm.
You know, there's things that God is concerned about, and He's concerned about people. I'm sure people at that bar, they were concerned. Why aren't you doing anything?
Yeah.
Why are you leaving? And this is before cell phones.
Right.
We didn't have cell phones.
Because
then,
we
see.
didn't have a lot.
Yeah, right.
Right. So you were
So,
restricted on
right.
how
So,
to get those.
so you know, you learn how to deal with things and the things that are important and the things that are not important, you know. When it comes to family life, because you know God, you recognize family is of importance,
Mhm.
but neighbor is of importance.
Mhm.
Everybody in the street is of importance,
Right.
you know. I
But it doesn't mean you're going to be perfect when you recognize that.
no, you're not.
Because
And it takes years.
But I think even then, I don't think I could ever be perfect, especially as a
No.
parent, because I always
Mm,
find myself, how many times do I have to ask for the dishes to be done before I lose it? And as much as I try to not lose it, sometimes they don't learn.
well, now, you know, when we used to drive the old cars, I'm going to tell you now, there used to be something called a 3-speed on the column.
Uh-huh.
And what you would do is you would put the clutch in and you
Mhm.
would pull the lever towards you and
And down.
down. That was first gear.
Mhm.
Then you'd let out the clutch slowly.
Right.
You'd get going. Then you'd put in the clutch and you'd go up and through the H and up
Up
to
on the top.
second gear.
Mhm.
Okay. So you and always engage the clutch. You
Right.
engage the clutch. Well, I was taught as a pastor early in life, engage the brain
Mhm.
before putting the mouth in the gear.
And that's it. That's the secret, I think. And when we do make a mistake, we just,
Repent.
yeah. And what do you mean repent?
Say, Lord, I'm sorry. I won't do that again.
I will. Please help me.
Yeah.
Raul,
Well,
I always the Raul
always say, help me,
special.
Lord.
The Raul special. That's what he always used to say.
Yeah, help me, Lord.
Help me. And I find myself doing that quite often. Quite
And
often.
that works, yeah.
As a
Yeah.
parent, quite often. But you know what? We are out of time. So, yeah, I know.
We are. Oh,
we
I'm
are.
just having fun.
I was too, and I can't wait to take these poles out and go fishing. And the girls are going to go fishing this weekend in a special tournament over at Golden Era, and we are going to try and catch some catfish.
Well, tell the girls that when they throw the
When they
bait
cast it
into the
out?
water, just throw it just out there where it gets wet. Don't worry about throwing it way out in the middle like everybody else is. They'll catch fish.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
because
gonna-
the fish
I'm gonna
are not
tell-
way out in the middle. They're close up.
they're
They gotta
close to
eat.
the shore.
Right,
That's what my dad
Yeah.
always taught me.
right.
And hopefully we will come back with a couple winners. Last time, Sammy, the little one, it
Uh,
was her birthday, and she caught a fish, and she caught a big enough fish that she was number 7. She won 7th place, and so she
wow.
was very excited. Katie did not catch anything. This time it's Katie's turn. Katie's gonna go out there, and she's bound and determined
You know
to
what's
catch
wrong in
catfish.
California, though?
What's that?
They don't let you use a net.
No, well, you're supposed to, yeah. Choosing a net, isn't that what they did to catch the fish way
Yeah,
back when, to bring
yeah.
it back to the disciples?
Right.
They
So
cast the
cast
net,
in the net.
and now we don't know really how
Yeah.
to cast the net anymore as far as fishing for men.
Right. I tell you an interesting thing about that very passage in the scripture. It says when the disciples were there mending their nets, plural,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus said he would show them how to cast their net out on the other side. But Peter said, now look, we've been at this all night, ain't caught nothing. But nevertheless, at your word, I will let down the net. He didn't just put them all out. He just put down the one.
One net, and it about turned the boat over.
Turn the boat over.
Almost turned that boat over because there were so many fish,
Yeah,
and he was desperate at that point.
yeah.
He was looking.
He knew he was a sinful man.
Well, you know what? You know what? It means that when we look at these disciples, when we look at the 12, knowing that there were so many more, right? They weren't perfect.
No, they were
God,
just people.
Jesus didn't expect them to be
No,
perfect.
no.
But he did straighten us out. He did straighten them out, and he straightens us out. And we got to listen to those signals. And we'll
Yeah.
get into that maybe next time.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. But in the meantime, we will see you next time. Thank you for joining.